9 to 2. Tell us about Hannah, and congratulations.
Oh, thanks, man. First, it's also good to be back. Baby Hannah's amazing. Hannah Elizabeth Nordquist.
Yes.
12:56 p.m. on June 6th.
Everybody listening now, unless you're driving and it puts you in a compromising spot, covenant collapse for the young man.
Thank you.
His wife Molly and sisters Ava and Stella, third baby into the world, Hannah Elizabeth. Continue.
Yeah, she's absolutely amazing. About a year ago this time, Molly and I were having the conversation. We have Ava and Stella. They did just turn 9.
Yeah.
And we're on the doorstep of 40, and it's like, well, do we want to do this thing again? And we love our family. I mean, family to me is the most vital and the most, it's the greatest thing I'll ever do, is really what it comes down to for me.
Amen.
And so the last 2 weeks, and I was trying to be tough guy about it. It's like, we had it all scheduled because it was a C-section, Wednesday, and then, maybe I'll take through the next week off, but I'm not really needed around the house, the whole thing. But ended up taking a couple of weeks with her. She's just amazing. She's truly just anything that you wait through the whole 9 months, the ebbs and flows of it, the emotions of it. At one point, it's just, will this thing be over?
Yeah.
And that's more, of course, from Molly's perspective than mine. But once that baby came out, all 7 pounds, 10 ounces of her, It is a third daughter. It appears as though Eric Jr. might not be in the cards. But no, she's everything that we would have wanted, anything that we could have fathomed that this baby would be. She is that. And now, you experienced this now many, many years ago, but, kind of the shock of the first child that you had in Derek. And then a couple of years later, you have Nicole. Mm-hmm. It's been 9 years since I had to deal with the crying. I had to deal with the diapers.
Crease cleaning.
Absolutely. So but it's like riding a bike.
Yeah.
And back in it, what's really impressed me the most is Ava and Stella have really jumped on board.
Yeah.
And so it truly has been, the last couple of weeks, truly a family affair. And the girls are helping out. And the one thing with the age gap, Ava and Stella, it's always been about them, right? And so even though they're 2, they're kind of 1. They haven't had to vie for attention. They haven't had to vie for affection or anything like that. So trying to figure out the dynamics these last 2 weeks have been interesting and what that looks like in the long term. But I've just been so impressed with their selflessness, because that's really what it is. We live inherently selfish. But when you have and build a family, ultimately other people matter more. And so that's where the selflessness comes in. Kids want to have fun. Kids want toys. Kids want all of those things. The last couple of weeks, they've been doing laundry. They've been feeding the kid. They've been watching the kid. They've been doing so many different things that they're learning on the fly. And it's really been a blast. So, baby Hannah is newest Nordo, and she's again, she is. I keep saying amazing. That's really the adjective that comes to my mind first and foremost. She's beautiful, man. She's been nothing but a blast the last 2.5 weeks.
Amen, brother. You now are 2 girls from. So let's see. We have Ava, we have Stella, and now we have Hannah Elizabeth, which means you are 2 girls from a WNBA starting lineup. Permit me to be probably the second or third person in your life to say that. But we're too shy of like the 2030 whatever version of the Red Hot Minnesota Lynx. Have you considered?
Well, we're working. I was talking to Greenway about a week and change ago. And I talked to him about that because I needed advice. Like, okay, third daughter in the mix. As we know, Chad Greenway has 4 of them.
Wow.
And so I'm just kind of thinking to myself, okay, number 3, she's only 2.5 weeks old. Maybe we can just wash our hands of this one and then just start working on number 4.
Yeah.
I'm not against it. And the odds are proving out at this stage.
That's great.
That I was so worried we didn't have enough estrogen in the household, so it was cool to add another girl to the mix. Might as well just go for 5,
right?
And get after it that way. So we'll see what the summer holds. Maybe this time a year from now we're having the same conversation.
I'm in,
and I'm asking for female names. Any help out there? Just planning. who knows what the future holds.
Maybe Kelsey or Plum or Asia or Wilson or Nafisa or Collier or Lindsay or Waylon. I think those are wonderful names as you advance towards the 2039 WNBA champions of the world.
Well, my daughters are already in the driveway, and they're trying to shoot it like Caitlin.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cultural icon that this young woman has already presented herself as across the landscape. And
they start shooting it like Caitlin, Angel Reese will mean mug her from 1,000 miles away, so be prepared.
I always love that.
I see Caitlin Clark Iowa jerseys. I've seen Caitlin Clark Fever jerseys. It's the summer of girls' sleepovers and birthday parties.
Yahweh.
I have seen them all over the last couple of years. And let's just say Ava and Stella, maybe a little vertically challenged. I'm not sure how much that plays. Can you be 4'11" and play in the WNBA? It's hard to say. Feels like that's where they'll be capped off at.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I'm not against it. Maybe girl number 4 will indeed be Caitlin.
Your wife Molly. How is she doing?
She's doing good, man. Yeah, the C-section is a little bit different, a little more invasive. But this last week, she's getting around totally healthy.
Good.
Feeling good, feeling better, feeling kind of refreshed. I can't speak from a female's point of view. I am not one. But it's kind of, there's the connection you build throughout the pregnancy. I think there are moments of stress and just wanting to get to the finish line. Then there's a moment of, there's this aspect of the pregnancy that I missed, but then there's all these freedoms that I now have back. So I can't relate to the emotional side of that and all of that, but she's an amazing mother, man, and she's handling it. This is the first day, of course, in 2.5 weeks that she's got to get 9-year-olds out of bed. She's got to get them fed. We got Archie. Archie's depressed. I don't know if dogs can get depressed, but Archie's 5th on the totem right now.
Archie's all done.
Yeah, Archie is not happy. So he's a disaster right now.
Yeah, where's Archie? We just let him go. We got too many people around here.
I got to put a diaper on him with the way things have been going the last couple of weeks. So, but no, she's slowly returning as the show returns to full strength today. She is indeed returning to full strength as well.
With your daughter Hannah Elizabeth, when do you strap ankle weights on her to secure soccer stardom?
Well, that's it already. Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
I mean, we're putting little baby barbells and dumbbells in the crib.
It's a competitive world out there.
Yeah, we try to make sure we actually force her to get herself out of the bassinet. Figure it out. If you want to eat, Hannah, figure it out. Climb out of that thing. No, we'll be getting her in the regiment. We'll get her in the training program here within the first 4 to 6 months. And get her on the way to hopefully being, if not the next Caitlin Clark, certainly the next Mia Hamm.
Well, we love you very much, and it's great seeing you again. And you are an elite father, and it's a pleasure to be next to it. Granted, most of the time living vicariously through it, but it's an honor and a pleasure to be next to all of this. And recognize what an elite father looks like. So congratulations to you and Molly and your covenant.
Yeah, you've said that a couple of times over the years, and I do appreciate that. I have no idea what I'm doing, PA, as a dad. I just do what instinctually feels right, and I love my kids, and I love growing my family, and it's been amazing. So I appreciate that, and it's good to see you. And I know that the girls are excited to see Uncle Paul here within the next week or so. We got to bring baby Hannah over, right?
So
can you babysit? So absolutely,
yeah. We are there at your beck and call whenever we are needed. And it causes me to hearken right now. The last time I saw you here at KFAN was a couple of 3 Thursdays ago. And the NBA draft is this week.
Duty EB.
And I'm walking Chris Finch, coach of the Wolves, from the lobby to the 651 Carpets Plus studios. And I met him down there with a media relations mogul, Aaron Freeman, right next to accomplished pianist Sir Leonard Dykert, getting set to execute his toil. And we were on relatively high alert that morning. You told me at about 7:15 that something could be popping. But then we walked down the hallway to start the radio show, Here comes Nordo, surging around the final turn into the final furlong. I mean, you almost ran Chris Finch over. He gave you a swag bag. You took my swag bag and left me with yours. And then you ran to the Jeep. You got home, and then all of a sudden you're a father of baby number 3.
Yeah.
But I just knew how excited you were to see Finchy that morning. And we spent 40 minutes together conversing. But I'll never forget when you came barreling down the hallway and almost knocked over Finchy. Finchy was already on one leg.
No, it was nutty, man. With the C-section, you get to put that on the calendar, PA.
Yeah.
It's not water breaks, get the Subaru all packed up, grab your go bag, and you're headed to the hospital. You had the chance, and it was supposed to be the following Wednesday, the 12th. Mm-hmm. So everything's in line. Everything's great. Final day of school for the girls. I had taken that Wednesday off. Well, Molly, I shouldn't say Molly. The baby's like, I'm deciding to come back. I'm coming to joining the party today.
Strong-willed little girl.
So she's at the hospital at 12:30 that morning.
And Angel Reese was mean mugging her from 1,000 miles away.
So we're dealing middle of the night. She's like, I'm going to drive myself to the hospital and get checked out. I think, I might be in labor. That's not supposed to happen with this. And so she goes to the hospital. I got Ava and Stella to take care of. I get them settled with the neighbors. I roll in, and we're on baby watch. If you got to go, you got to go. Abbott said the same thing. Got everything lined up. Everything's figuring out. I just wanted to hang out with Chris Finch for 45 minutes. I just wanted to hear from the coach.
Yeah, I mean, you ran down the hallway so quickly, you knocked the crutch out of his arm.
I wanted to thank the guy. I'm like, I can't watch the baseball team on TV. You guys made a sweet run. You're sitting there hobbled on the sidelines. Mike Nori this, Anthony Edwards that. Do we really have to talk about trading Cat? And it's barely June. I just want to thank you for this beautiful run. And I see him in the lobby. It's like, hey, thanks for all you've done for the show. My wife's having a kid. I gotta head out. Freeman's eyes, big as bowling balls, hands me the bag. It was the wrong bag. Spent 2.5 weeks. You haven't slept because all you wanted when you went to Colorado was to wear some Wolves swag.
Yes.
And you didn't get to wear it because they gave you the double X's and I had the single X's. So really
great.
both of us weren't able to wear it.
That's great.
And so it was a feverish morning. 6 days early, everything went smooth. Fairview Southdale hit a home run as per usual. And here we are back together again.
Yes, back together again, full strength. That's debatable, always were. Eric Nordquist, the producer. He's mad producer. New father of Hannah Elizabeth Nordquist. We've added another to the surrogate stable, and the Nordquists have added another to their stable. We're going to back everything up a segment here. When we return, the Stanley Cup finals is down to Game 7 this evening, and this is ballyhooed. We'll discuss that, then we'll get into some Vikings football after that. Lane Kiffin, coach of the Ole Miss Rebels, joins 9 to noon at 10:03. Lane will be discussing his father, Monty Kiffin. He's football immortality. He's a Super Bowl champion defensive coordinator. And via the Awards of Excellence program, Monty, who was with the Vikings for nearly a decade, he enters the Hall of Fame this week. Russo Radio from South Florida at 11:35. And I'm Paul Allen with Eric Nordquist producing 9 to noon. Thank you very much for listening to FM 100.3 KFAN, your TimberTech and TimberTech.com leader.
Fan.
For you Monday night, and the biggest game in the history of the Stanley Cup Final is about to be played. Edmonton, Florida, Monday night, 6:20 Mountain. The Oilers will look to do what only one other team has done, and that's all she wrote. One final face-off. What a night.
All right. A last question for now about your new daughter.
Yeah.
Is she a fat little baby?
She's a fat little baby.
Is she a fat little baby with like fat arms, fat legs, and like you just really gotta work to get into those leg creases and everything to make sure like the whole body's clean and stuff. She's just a fat little baby, isn't she?
She is. There's a caveat to it. She's a normal size baby. So when we had Ava and Stella's, they were in the NICU for almost a month,
and they were babies,
and they were very much babies, and
right.
There were some feeding problems, right? So we had to grow them up a little bit before we could take them home.
Yeah.
Baby Hannah has no problems eating. So now she's not a fat little baby in the same sense that when you look at me, like, she's not a human beanbag chair like dad. She's normal sized like mom.
Right.
But she's cute and she's got the chubby cheeks and no, she's again perfect.
This is your We Love Fat Babies leader, the fan, and KFAN.com. So the Stanley Cup is on KFAN this evening. Game 7 on KFAN this evening. A question: how does Florida win? I mean, honestly, how does Florida win? How do the Panthers muster the required 3-period performance to offset fears of being on the wrong side of history? Edmonton is the 10th team in Stanley Cup playoff history to force a Game 7 after trailing 3 games to zip. Only 4 teams in NHL history have rallied to win a series in any round in that scenario. In fact, I mean, it's that record is 4 wins, 206 losses.
Wow.
The 1942 Maple Leafs Stanley Cup final versus your Wings, the 75 New York Islanders quarterfinals versus Pitt, 2010 Flyers conference semis versus the Bruins, and 2014 the LA Kings round 1 versus San Jose.
Have you ever seen old photos of like old school hockey? So let's say 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
and this only comes up because you mentioned the Maple Leafs from the 40s.
Like Gump Worsley.
But now, like, you go to a Wild game, you got the people that Swedberg hates banging on the glass and stuff like that. You got everyone's wearing sweaters, right? Everyone's wearing hoodies and all of that. Mm-hmm. It's so weird seeing some of these older photos with guys with their hats,
the fedoras,
their suits, and just how buttoned up and professional everyone the fan base looked before the craze of merchandise.
And it looked like 20,000 Tom Landrys.
I always love that one.
It did.
In an arena rooting for teams, and they were smoking Pall Malls, and they were less complicated than we are in 2024.
I
want to make America Tom Landry again.
The fedoras, yeah. Well, coaches,
they were sweet,
right? Coaches used to do that too. They would dress up on the sideline. But I mean, seriously, and you're welcome to leave talkbacks if you like at the free iHeartRadio app, or send emails to the old 64686. But I mean, how does Florida win?
Yeah,
we just went through the scenarios about Game 7. Okay, so Florida's at home, like that really matters. And secondly, you have this record on your side. All right, it's fine and dandy, but the Oilers are the 3rd team in NHL history to rally from that 3-0 deficit to force that Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final, following the 1945 Detroit Red Wings and the 42 Toronto Maple Leafs, with all the Tom Landrys in the stands smoking the Pall Malls. And they were able to get by the Wings to win the series 4-3. So Edmonton's looking to become the first team in, that was 14, 15, 16, 17,
a decade, right?
82 years. The Oil are looking to become the first in 82 years to overcome that deficit in the championship series and win Game 7. The drama's terrific. This is terrific drama, beloved, and you can listen to it tonight on KFAN. This is a runaway freight train against an anxiety attack of second to none fashion. One team uses McDavid, the other requires Zoloft.
I always love that one.
Some Game 7 minutia to consider if you're so inclined. The team that scores first is 149-48 in the 197 all-time Game 7s in the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that includes 12-5 for the record in the 17 all-time Game 7s in the Stanley Cup final. Now, Edmonton has scored first the last 3 games. If the Oilers get the first one tonight, Panthers fans may need to hide the women and children. I mean, the proverbial floodgates might open tonight if McDizzle and his team score first. It may be a Panthers panic, like Panthers press floundering Florida. But Florida had completely controlled the series with 3 consecutive victories. They jump up 3-0, and a cup celebration appeared very close. But since The Oilers have outscored the Panthers 18-5 in winning 3 consecutive elimination games and have become the 3rd team in NHL history to force a Game 7 after being down 3-0 in the final. Russo Radio at about 11:35 from the Sunshine State, and we'll have much more on that. 9 to noon returns with some rather overt proclamations from Minnesota Vikings safety Cam Bynum that he made last week. And we have some audio from it, and we also have some thoughts, and we'll do that around the corner on KFAN.
Vikes Bites.
Yeah, let's make this Vikes Bites.
Yeah, the listening audience has been waiting a couple of weeks to hear
Finding
Vikes Bites! And it's brought to you by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef, a Clearwater, Minnesota company. Elite beef products that you can shop online, thousandhillslifetimegrazed.com. You can find them at your local Coburns or co-ops throughout the region, but amazing product. And it goes to support Dinkytown athletes as well. So you're supporting local, you're keeping athletes local. It's all good with Thousand Hills. Cam Bynum came out with some audio that you hit me with as we were putting things together over the weekend, PA, and your curiosity was piqued, I believe.
Cam Bynum is fired up for the season and likes what he sees. 9 to noon is fired up for about 30 minutes from now when Lane Kiffin, coach of the Ole Miss Rebels, joins us to discuss his father, Monty, who is going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame via the Awards of Excellence program. I'm currently tweeting with Lane Kiffin to promote it. Oh, good for you! But Lane Kiffin, a Bloomington Jefferson class of 1994 graduate, will be on the show about 30 minutes from now. But back to Cam, young Cameron. Cam Bynum. Where are we on the calendar? Training camp is 5 weeks from now. The first preseason game here against your Vegas Raiders, 6.5 weeks from now. And 7 weeks from now, joint practices in Cleveland and against Kevin Stefanski's Rough and Tumble Browns. So it's edging closer. Viking safety Cam Bynum had this to say on NFL Network, which I guess is still a thing. I understand we have the audio of it.
We absolutely do. Here he is with, I think it was Mike Garafalo and Stacey Dales.
All right, quickly, Cam, give us the ceiling for this team. We got Jordan Addison on this group. He's had an amazing offseason. Justin Jefferson got the massive deal. We'll see who's at quarterback for you. Likely Sam to start, but with that defense, what's the ceiling for this group this year?
I expect the Super Bowl. I know everybody says that, and everybody should say that. But you look at the guys on the team, you look at the locker room, all the experience that we have. We look how much depth we have, especially on the defense. So many guys, it's almost weird looking around because you're like, okay, how are we all going to get on the field? Because there's so many ballers. You look at the offense, there's a baller at every position when you look across the whole board. So that's why I'm confident when I say I expect us to be a Super Bowl team. And but really, our preparation has to tell it all. That you say that every year, every team says that every year, but we have to put all these names and everything. We have to make it real.
He said Super Bowl.
Oh my God.
I mean, right out of the gate, not like Stacey Dales. Speaking of Stacey Dales, was college basketball immortality as an Oklahoma Sooner. Damn, she could ball. Does a really good job, really good work with NFL Network. And when prompted, young Cameron could have started with, well, I mean, look at how much depth we have, especially on the defense. Or he could have started with, I mean, you watch the games, you see all these ballers, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Hawkinson when he's healthy. When he returns, and Aaron Jones so fast, and so on and so on. But he said, I expect a Super Bowl.
Oh my God.
Followed it up by saying, everybody says that and everybody should say that. Okay, he's right about that. This whole thing is talkback worthy. At the free iHeartRadio app, find the microphone, give us your best 30 seconds on what young Cameron said, or don't, and enjoy this beautiful summer day. Anything else that you want to drop in here before we continue?
Well, I got something that he said on Flores in particular,
Yep.
and then I have something kind of a 10,000-foot view overall with a lean towards the QBs.
Be flowing the flow.
Cam, we know they're being tested by your defense another year with Brian Flores, which I know is
Sure.
something real special to you, but You were a tackling machine a season ago, right? Top 10, what were you, 6 with 94 solo tackles in the NFL? You exploded last season. What changed technically for you? How did you do it in this defense? What do you love about Brian Flores?
Just the aggression that he has us play with. It shifted the mindset. Just being out there and playing under B-Flow is really, it makes you comfortable to just play as yourself. And that's one thing from my jump from year 2 to year 3. It was just the speed I was playing at and just the confidence that I had being out there on the field. It helped me be able to go out there and make all those tackles I had. Whatever the number was, I felt comfortable being on the field. And there's never a point where I felt uncomfortable and not trusting his scheme. So the fact that he had let us play our defense, and he always says, this is your guys' defense. I'm installing it. I'm teaching you guys everything, but this is your defense. You guys make the calls. So just having that in the back of our mind of having the freedom to kind of do things based off experience, being around other experienced guys, especially for me, Harrison Smith, that being my big brother to look up to. So being out there just shifted my mindset where we could just play a lot more aggressive, and that's where all the numbers came from, really.
And wham, bam, thank you, Cam. Bite 3.
Tell us what the spring was like when you see Sam Darnold on the other side at quarterback, and you see J.J. McCarthy come in, the rookie. How did those guys do from your perspective? And I'm interested in your perspective because you're on the defensive side of the ball, so you know what they're doing, what you have to guard against, and what they're potentially taking advantage of.
I'd say, well, first of all, the whole team, it's an exciting year because there's so many new faces on the offense and defense. So just being out there and being able to see new faces is fun, especially as being one of the leaders of the team, just being able to have the chemistry with the newer guys. But having the 2 new quarterbacks, it's fun being able to play against them and to see what they bring to the table. And they're both looking really good, and it's exciting to see them compete. And they're both looking good. So I can't put one over the other. I just say they both look ready, and whatever coaches decide, I trust them in their decision.
Cam's like, there's a baller at every position when you look across the whole board at the offense. I mean, we've got ballers all over the place. What would it have sounded like, or how would it have gone over if Garofalo with NFL Network, which I guess is still a thing, if he had asked Cam about what do you think about that offense? I mean, you go against it in the organized team activities and minicamp and everything. What do you think of these quarterbacks? And he's like, yeah, they're both doing quite well. We like when JJ is out there practicing because he throws it to us.
I always love that
one. What if he'd said that? It would have been elite. All right, so what do we think of all this? First and foremost, let's go Cam. All right, first and foremost, let's go Cam.
Yeah.
Secondly, let's analyze the core 4 of the message via Vikes Bites, which is provided by
Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef.
The Vikings experience, the experience with the roster, the Vikings depth on defense, the Vikings employing on offense a baller at every position, as in skill guys, is what I'm sure he meant. And finally, the Vikings making the Super Bowl. That would be the core 4 of the message. Let's begin with the experience via Monday's Vikes Bites. Take it away.
Yeah, and I want to get to the experience. I want to start with the defense because the defense is interesting in regard to when you speak to depth and ballers at every position, as he referenced in the offense. It's a little bit different in some spots defensively because since Flores has arrived, you've spoken of the scheme almost as much, if not more so, than the personnel themselves. You got stars at certain spots and playmakers here, there, and everywhere, Daniil Hunter and all those sacks, etc. But in the end, a big talker around this defense has been the scheme and the experience of the play caller, that being Brian Flores. Experience in this scheme is probably outside of Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum himself. That's a question that I think will remain through Camp PA. I think Josh Metellus had a terrific year. Now, how do you build on that and redo that? Harrison Phillips certainly experienced in his career, also coming off a year where he had by far the most snaps in his career. How do you have to replicate that? How do you adjust that? But certainly experience from a career mindset. Other than that, Jonathan Greenard, new to the mix, experience during his time with Houston, but you love Greenard on paper. Does Greenard show up on the playing field? Blake Cashman, experience in terms of really his first true shot at starting and playing games in mass. Had like a 20 tackle game last year for the Texans.
Yeah.
That's sweet, but from an experience perspective, it's really light. Ivan Pace Jr. entering his second season. Van Ginkel, experience with Flores in Miami, now coming off that injury and here. So experience from a defensive side of things is still a question in my mind, PA. Not necessarily because these guys are learning how to play football,
right,
but learning how to come together because of all those new faces that Cam Bynum was speaking of and how quickly it takes to come together. A year ago, and you really hit on this. You hit on this so hard during training camp, and you ended up it really ended up playing true to the season, where take your time and be patient about what this Brian Flores defense is going to look like. That's what you said a year ago. And it will take time. It will take a month. It will take, not Ed Donatel. It takes a month. It takes 2 months. It takes 3 months. Now I don't work here anymore. Not that. But it's going to take time for rhythm and chemistry to take place. This team hits the ground running, and they're creating turnovers. And by late October into November, we were starting to have conversations about this being one of the better defenses in the NFL. So does it take that kind of time this time around? I don't believe it does, because of the experience that several members had specific to the scheme.
Yeah. But
you're still putting a lot of new faces together. I really love what they did through free agency to add some of these names, and in without going the Christian Wilkins big timer route, they found their way to some value individuals that fill out this roster. But the experience combined now with a team that does on paper look deeper, I would have to question the defensive side of things experience-wise, but I think he's absolutely dead on. This is a deeper team that on paper should be better than it was a year ago.
Okay, so as part of the core four of some things that Cam Bynum said, analyzable per your home for Vikings football, 9 to noon in KFAN.
Number 2.
Defensive depth. What do you got there?
Yeah, and that's and I stepped on my own bit at the end of that. But this team is absolutely deeper, I believe. When you replace Harrison Smith and effectively, or not Harrison Smith, excuse me, Danielle Hunter. When you let go Danielle Hunter, he goes to Houston, and in his stead you bring in a Jonathan Greenard, you bring in an Andrew Van Ginkel, and then in the draft, again, lack of experience, but on paper you may have gotten the best pass rusher in the draft in the mid-teens in Dallas Turner. That's where the depth improved.
There we go.
So that's where, from a deeper standpoint, I absolutely believe this defense is deeper. And to my point, again, a moment ago where I said this team should be better, they should be, based on how you project these things out. Again, we got to play the games and see how this thing comes together. But it's you're deeper at the cornerback spot. Now, Shaq Griffin, you're not deeper at the cornerback spot for the next 10 years with Shaq Griffin, but can he make plays and provide some action on the defense at the corner spot this year? Absolutely. Byron Murphy Jr., adding Shaq Griffin, does that allow Byron Murphy to maybe slip into and play that slot role and get maybe more out of what he has done best over the course of his career? You look at that. I think the three-headed beast of Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, and Josh Metellus, if it's as good as it was a year ago, then you're absolutely loving that. So specifically from a defensive standpoint, I think we got deeper. Now, on offense, did we get deeper? That's a question that remains in my head. And chief among that is how much will we miss? Is it worth spending time on thinking about how much will we miss KJ Osborne? Like the third wide receiver spot. JJ's back. He's been healthy throughout his career, save for the hamstring last year. So he's back in the mix. Addison is here, and terrific rookie campaign. What does year 2 look like? Are we deep at the wide receiver spot? At this particular juncture, PA, I would have to say, no, we are not deep. I don't know to what degree until you really get these guys on the field and in pads and doing things. Did we get deeper at the offensive line? We brought Reisner back. In a lot of ways, our offensive line's potentially going to look exactly the same as it did a year ago. Blake Brandell, maybe vying for one of those guard spots. So you can have that type of conversation. Depth on defense, got deeper. Alexander Madison, Aaron Jones swap. You're probably better at that position, but are you deeper? I don't know. Is Dwayne McBride? Did he lose a few pounds? Can he contribute? Other than that, it's about the same as it was a year ago. And so from a depth standpoint, I think you get deeper on defense. You're probably line level on offense. And that's probably how you look at it there. But to Cam's point, you added so many of these new faces defensively.
Yeah.
More toys for Flores. I like that aspect of it.
And to point number 3, analyzable and talk-backable via the free iHeartRadio app. Go onto the free iHeartRadio app on the baby microphone and leave us your best 30 seconds. And if time permits, then we certainly will drop them in. And we appreciate you listening to 9 to noon.
How many times did I say Greenard, by the way?
2.
At least 2 or 3 times. Grenard.
Yeah, but see, you know the pronunciation of the name.
I do.
But A, you get grace all the time. But B, extra grace. Why? Fat baby.
Fat baby.
Hi, Mr. Allen. How are you doing today?
All right. Offensive baller at every position. Offensive baller at every position. Cam Bynum's like, who's got it better than us? Nobody! Why don't you go ahead and tackle that one, Hannah's daddy?
Well, I think I can't. I have a hard time disagreeing with them. The wide receivers are set.
We got baller at every position.
Save for that. I mean, they have
Thayer Thomas, though.
I think you got 2 ballers, and then you got to determine who that third spot is. Is it Brandon Powell, Thayer Thomas? How about the Wolf of Walk-Ons, the NC State kid? Let's go, Thayer Thomas.
Go ahead and doubt Thayer Thomas, Rube Nation, and watch him fly.
He's definitely the next Hunter Renfrow. It's hard to say if he's
He might be the next Chad Beebe.
Yeah.
Or maybe the next Jason Sehorn if he played corner. But anyway.
But certainly not an Eddie Royal.
No. And then there's no Odell Beckham Jr. to him either. But that's okay. You can win not being OBJ.
You have a baller with TJ Hawkinson, and you preface when he's healthy, right? And there's still a shroud of cloudiness around when he's going to return to action. Robert Tonyan, though. Can he be a baller? Running backs?
You were becoming a dad, or right around there, at mandatory minicamp. And I said this a couple of weeks ago when I was last here. Yours truly witnessed TJ Hawkinson running on the Mike Hughes Memorial Field. And I mean, it looked normal. I mean, he wasn't full speed. And I did a charity appearance at Shields a few Saturdays ago, and TJ was there, and I'm like, man, I saw you on the Mike Hughes Memorial Field, and you were like kind of sprinting. I mean, he wasn't sprinting, but I mean, it's like the terrorism that indicates he may not play X amount of games to begin the season. I'm not one to say that that's wrong. On the Mike Hughes Memorial Field, I saw him running. And if you're X amount of months away from returning, you're probably not running. So just chew on that for a little bit.
Now, here's what I will say, though. Looks can be deceiving. Remember when we were doing joint practices a year ago and we saw Kyler running up and down the field?
Point. Yeah.
During those practices, he ended up not coming back until midway through the season.
That's because they didn't want him.
That might be part of it, too.
Yeah, and then he became Kyler the Creator and had a #1 hit, and everybody loved him.
Well, and they had a big Clayton Tune opinion. That's probably what it was.
Well, they had a bigger Josh Dobbs opinion. The problem is they pushed it off on us.
It's PA 9 to noon on the Fan.
Yeah, and that opinion played itself out as well with the Pastronaut. The cutting. If you see him on the Memorial Field doing cuts.
No, I saw no cuts. The Kyler the Creator analogy is perfect because that was the stride at which he was running, the gait with which he was running. Yeah, the Kyler the Creator bit, that was perfect.
By the way, have you seen Deuce Vaughn? Because when we saw Kyler out there, we're like, who
the hell is Deuce Vaughn?
Well, Kyler Murray is built, but he's so small.
Yeah.
Deuce Vaughn is 5'6".
Who's Deuce Vaughn?
He's the K-State running back. I think he's in Dallas now. You have to find video, if you can, of him running at mandatory minicamp through the defensive line.
No, that's Darren Sproles. Okay, continue.
Yeah, he's smaller than Sproles is, I believe. But, okay, Robert Tonyan until TJ comes back. Running back, above average, certainly. That's the one position on offense where I think you discuss the scheme as much as you discuss the player, because in the end, Kevin O'Connell, it's on his to-do list. The run game has to be more efficient. The offensive line, you can win a Super Bowl with Darisaw. Darisaw's a baller. And O'Neal, last 2 years, he's ended them with injuries, so we don't like that. But O'Neal, throughout his career, has been a baller at times. Interior of the O-line there at this stage, until proven otherwise, there's no ballers at this stage. So,
why would you say that about Reisner?
Well, Reisner certainly above average in the pass blocking.
He's a baller.
I need him to be a baller. I hope he's a baller.
How about this?
I'm rooting for Reisner.
So I'm in Colorado, and when I go to Colorado, Dalton and I do our best to meet. That's where he lives, in Wigan, Colorado, which is about 40 minutes from Boulder, where my daughter lives.
Does he drive to you, or do you drive to him?
Well, that's the bit, is I jumped in her car when she had an obligation, drove 15 minutes, pulled over and texted, "Hey, what's up, man? I'm in the neighborhood. I've done that before, and it's worked." But this was last week, and his response to me was, "Dude, I moved to Florida."
I always love that one.
I mean, I'm halfway to Wigan, and you're telling me I need to be halfway to Sunrise. What are we doing here? But why you got to doubt Dalton Reisner? What else?
Well, I got to appreciate it, though, that you did the text. The pop-in's weird. Like the random pop-in without notice. I don't like the random pop-in. So I'm glad to hear that you did indeed text him. Overall, as far as the skill positions are concerned, I do agree there's a baller at every spot. Save for one that we haven't talked about, PA.
Oh.
We haven't talked about the quarterbacks at all through this entire segment. And that's part, maybe after Lane Kiffin, we'll continue this conversation. I'm sure we will, and we do have some talkbacks rolling in, so excited to hear those. But that's the biggest hinging point, the pivot point of this entire conversation, and probably where those talkbacks will be going is, do we have a baller at the quarterback spot? I mean, I'm as much PA as bullish on giving Darnold a spot. I've been on the couch for a couple of weeks, but as it pertains to the Super Bowl conversation and Sam Darnold, am I ready to take that leap yet? I mean, at this stage,
understood.
There's a lot of faith and a lot of projection that goes into him doing things with Kevin O'Connell that he has not done the previous several seasons of his career, starting with the Jets and his short tenure with Carolina before hanging out with Purdy in the Bay. So, but that's going to be that pivot point for me as we look at things. Is, do we have a baller at the quarterback spot? We got a 21-year-old kid. And then we got somebody with a lot of projections and a lot of hashtag faith involved at this stage, I would have to say, in a league where maybe the 2020 Rams with Stafford, that defense showing up, all those sacks on Joey Burrow in the Super Bowl. The 2017 Eagles had a great defense, but Wentz was MVP-like before Foles took over post-injury. Hobbled Peyton in 2015 with the Broncos. That defense and Von Miller was nearly historic. Did the aura matter in some of those spots? All of those things. Getting to the Super Bowl, winning the Super Bowl. A couple of great ones in Brady and Mahomes have really all told us that it's not possible without that guy. It feels impossible without that guy. What I loved most as we transitioned to the Super Bowl conversation in the end is Cam Bynum is just the newest and the most recent example of guys that buy into the message, own the message, love their team, and that's fluffy stuff to a lot of Vikings fans. Totally get it, but this is a team that is together. I don't believe that there is a schism. There's not an issue that impedes this team from reaching their ceiling, whatever it is. I just got to think about this Sam Darnold thing a bit more, PA.
And as the 4 go,
Number 4.
from NFL Network, assuming it's still a thing, Cam Bynum said, "I expect a Super Bowl." Everybody says that, and everybody should say that. All right, we've heard that 8 million times. But making the Super Bowl, the Minnesota Vikings are 35-1 to make it to the Super Bowl, to win the NFC. They're 35-1 according to DraftKings. They're 80-1 to win the bad boy.
Yeah.
The Vikings are minus 400 to miss the playoffs. That means Cinny, Brett Blakemore, John Kotishka, the East Sider, the civil servant, all you Cotton John, all you juicy Packer fans. If you want to root against the Minnesota Vikings vociferously, like so loudly and overtly and abrasively, like they're not going to make the playoffs, you got to put up your 400 to win the book's 100. So minus 400 to miss the playoffs, that's kind of negative butt right there. And they're also 10-1 to win the division. So that means you put up your 1 to scoop 1,100.
Man, you're getting a lot of value on this team this year.
If you think, I mean, it's yeah. I think the over/under on the season total before the draft was 6.5, which we thought was ridiculous. After the draft, it went up to 7.5, and it shaded on the over.
Well, here's the deal though: is you're getting 138 via FanDuel. You're getting plus 140 on the over right now, minus 170 on the under.
Oh, geez.
So 7.5 is, I mean, that's the number, right?
I mean, get that 8.
And you're gonna lose some sleep trying to figure out which side of the coin you want to be on.
A8.
This team's gonna win. I mean, conservatively 10 games, so clearly it's an over. It's an overvalue.
Some talkback playbacks on all this. Do you see what Cam Bynum sees, or are you on the other side of it? We'll drop some of those in after we chat with Ole Miss Rebels football coach Lane Kiffin about his father, Monty Kiffin, and much more. That's around the corner on KFAN.